Hi guys, my name is Adam Sale. I'm a mortgage broker here in Vancouver, and today I've created a presentation to show you how you can take advantage of the uncertainty that has grown in the Vancouver real estate market. So let's get started with a quick backstory on what is, what's really causing this change in the real estate market. And the main thing is runaway inflation. Runaway inflation is causing interest rates to rise above the inflation level to try to bring that inflation back down to a more manageable level, which is 2%. That's what Bank of Canada always tries to have their target inflation rate at, is 2%. So as these interest rates rise, this is actually causing pressure on the stress test, which is how we qualify someone for a mortgage. And now, if interest rates are rising so much, we now have to qualify someone at a higher stress test, which is then lowering the amount that the borrower is capable to borrow. The lowering of the stress test is going to start decreasing how much people can actually borrow, which then will theoretically should trickle down into the real estate market and decrease the prices that these houses are sold for. Now, we also have the Ukraine war as well as COVID, and this is causing the uncertainty that is growing in the real estate market. So let's look at what the average buyer sentiment was over the last 2 years. So when COVID first came out in February of 2020, there was the fear of the unknown. We didn't know what COVID was going to look like. We didn't know how extensive it was going to be. Banks also took this approach as well. They weren't sure what was going to happen, and they started raising their interest rates. As the interest rates rose, the sales activity started decreasing. Now, if we look at July 2020 until about April 2022, we have the period where the banks have stepped in. They've lowered the interest rates. Now people are scared of missing out on the opportunity to get into the real estate market. This is creating subject-free bidding wars as well as buyer's fatigue. Buyer's fatigue is what has occurred over the last, I would say, maybe 6 months. You have a lot of people who have been trying to get into the market and they keep getting outbid. And after you get outbid, 5, 6, 10 times, you're probably thinking, you know what, it's not worth it. This market is overrated. I don't want to get in. So if we look at March, April of 2022, we're in a period of the fear of the unknown. Inflation is out of control. That we don't know if the Bank of Canada will reel that inflation back in. Interest rates have risen across the country, and there is low sales activity in Vancouver area, which leads me to, is this a good time to purchase or not? Because if you look at what the headlines are saying, from April, I want to say mid-April, the headlines have started changing. So in roughly a 3-week period, we've gone from headlines which were saying that housing prices are going to continue to increase through 2022 to now housing prices are going to crash by, if you look here, Better Dwelling is saying 24%, possibly up to 40%. And this is really fueling that fear of the unknown. Now you have many buyers who are sitting on the sidelines saying, oh, I don't want to get into the market because I think the market is going to continue to decline, and I don't want to end up purchasing a property too high when I know that the price is going to keep going down. And this is really where I'm going to show you that if you're sitting on the sideline and you're waiting to purchase, you are going to likely miss out on the opportunity to purchase because you are going to miss the bottom of the market. So how do we spot the opportunity? Well, the best way to do this is by working with a realtor. The realtor will have access to the actual sales price data, and that's what we need to start using when we're trying to find out how much the market has actually decreased in value. Let's look at this example here. We have a 2-bed, 1-bath going for $750,000. They are looking at offers on Tuesday. If you were in the market for the last 2 years, you probably know that this 2-bed, 1-bath was being sold for about $900,000, subject free, no inspection. The average home buyer like myself, I'm not going to know that property actually sold for $900,000. And if I start reading headlines which say that the market price is supposed to crash by 25%, I'm going to be waiting for this property listed for $750,000 to be relisted at $560,000, and I'm going to actually miss the market. What I should have been doing is been talking to a realtor, finding out what that property sold for at its peak, which was $900,000, and then discounting from the $900,000. And that is how you're going to spot the opportunity and find the value. Much of this decrease in the market right now is due to uncertainty and rising interest rates. Once we have certainty come back to the marketplace and we have interest rates decrease, we are going to see the market light back up. Now, there is one downside for purchasing while home prices are low, and that is interest rates. In theory, as interest rates decrease, home prices will increase. That's what we saw from July 2020 until now. And now that interest rates are increasing, we're seeing home prices decrease. Of course, there is a little bit more to it than that. There is also supply and demand. So let's look at the supply and demand. In 2021, we had a record of 52,000 housing starts, and in 2022, this is already increasing by 10%. Now, it is expected to taper off in the tail end of 2022, and the reason for that is one, rising building costs, and two, we are now expecting the housing market to decrease. What builder is going to want to build a house when they know that by the time they're finished building the house is going to be worth 25% less than what they thought they would sell it for? However, if we look at the demand side, in 2021, BC welcomed 100,000 new residents. And from 2022 to 2024, BC is looking at increasing the amount of admitted permanent residents from 67,000 per year to 75,000 per year. And another beautiful thing about BC is that we have the warmest climate in Canada and arguably the best lifestyle. So, if you have any questions on what you saw, please shoot me an email, drop a comment. I'm Adam Sale Mortgages. Thanks for watching.